Star Citizen Alpha 3.10.0 has gone to the first wave of PTU finally, so let's check out the patch notes and a feature summary of that initial 3.10.0 public PTU build at this time. There is a player trading app accessed through the Mobilglass. You can use this to send Alpha UEC or merits to another player, regardless if they are on or offline or in a different server, but there are taxes and fees paid on transfers. Body dragging allows you to interact with dead and unconscious characters and then move them with your left hand. Whilst you're dragging, you can equip and use one-handed weapons still, or equipment. Delivery missions have had an overhaul, which has included creating a new multiple drop-off delivery mission set, and there's lots of drug running missions, things like that. AI have seen some updates with cover usage v1, allowing them to use partial cover and work out how to more readily engage players, and have generally seen some work for social AI. They're sort of a bit more functional. The bartender NPCs are functional as well. You can order a drink from them and they will move around operating their bar. Electron damage and the two new FPS weapons that use it in game are in the Lightning Bolt Company Atscav sniper rifle and Ubrev pistol. You can pick these up at Scutters on Grimhex and Conscientious Objects on Levski, I believe. When a target is hit with Electron, they become charged, and if the target receives a secondary hit while charged, then they sort of like create an electrical or electron detonation that can chain to nearby targets. If you're using these in a group with lots of other players firing them, it actually gets quite cool. The size of this detonation is dependent on the initial and subsequent damage values on the target. This will also affect the target's UI, so you'll see sort of like distortion effects and interference there. There is also the Gemini C-54 ballistic SMG, adding a bit more variety to the more short-range SMG weapons. That's available, I believe, at Centermast and Cubby Blast as well. There's some quite big location changes here in 3.10. Grimhex V2 has been updated to include internal hangars, including 2 large and 1 extra large one. There are new internal areas to explore as well. There's a giant sort of like viewing area, which is going to be amazing once we have the actual races around Grimhex. But yeah, Grimhex has been expanded out somewhat. There's an update for New Babbage as well. The hangars there are the new high-tech AeroView hangars. There's a novelty kiosk as well in the New Babbage spaceport, which sells penguins, snowboarding penguins. They're actually disgustingly cute. Disgustingly cute is probably the correct term for them. It sells sort of food and knickknacks and stuff like that as well. Expect to see loads of things like that around the verse eventually to add flavour. The factory line flagship store for Microtech has also been added in the Commons main shopping area, which sells variants of Mobilglasses, which gives you sort of like different colour options in 3.10 of the actual physical item. There's a new ice pick hacking chip as well that you can purchase there. There's lots of other little cool things which are yet to be purchasable, like the SIM pods and AR contact lenses, things like that, but and little hollow sort of like emitters, which I actually quite like the idea of having around in your ships and things like that. Some pretty cool stuff there. Hopefully that will be available for Flare in the future, or some of it actually quite functionable, I suppose. Prisons have had various updates, including adding missions to repair broken oxygen dispensers for merits. These missions will trigger periodically as oxygen kiosks in the prison sort of break over time, and they will signal that they need repairs. When a player accepts and completes that mission, they will be awarded with merits. Planetary tech has been updated with height maps, allowing for high fidelity. There are ocean shader improvements, seeing water looking better and reacting to wind conditions. You will notice that points of interest and the cities and stuff, they might have moved around a bit, or some of the planetary generation and moon generation may have changed and look a bit prettier now. Outposts, caves, underground facilities and points of interest have all seen updates as well, and they should be around the verse in appropriate locations and have missions connected to them now, so lots more to see and do, and it work more appropriately. Temperatures will be changing during the day and night cycle on planets and moons as well, so be careful of that. They have tweaked levels of detail on various assets to help with popping in. The landing zones at Area 18 and Lorville now require you to contact the ATC like you did before, but then it shows you a flight corridor, so that will take you down to your hangar going through the flight corridor. If you stray too far from that, you can get your ship impounded and break laws and stuff like that. So, one of the major changes with 3.10, and probably the one that people will notice the most, is the new flight model changes and combat changes. Jerk. That changes how your ship moves, both in space and in atmosphere. It makes it feel much more smoother, but more weighty as well. Ships' acceleration changes are now a finite quantity. They don't instantly change and respond at full sort of power. So you should have similar levels of maneuverability, but you will feel more weighty, and you do have to think a little bit more about how you fly. Thruster efficiency curves are here as well, so that drastically changes the way thrusters work in different atmospheres and on planets and moons. Thrusters now lose efficiency and become much weaker in atmosphere. Ships can't fly the sort of like same maneuverable way they used to while in atmosphere. Aerodynamics is also taking effect here. Ships have individually simulated aerodynamics. The result is a much more realistic and significantly more detailed simulation. This has lots of subtle changes and a unique flight characteristic per ship that give them a lot more character. Ships with wings are now able to stall, do turns, lose speed in tight turns, and do various fancy aerodynamic sort of maneuvers and things like that. To what extent exactly in 3.10 I don't know yet, because I haven't played around with it enough, and obviously we'll see how it develops through the PTU phases, but breakable parts now affect aerodynamics on your ship as well, so if you break off a wing, you're not going to fly so straight anymore. You're going to have to fight against your ship wanting to go one direction while you're trying to go the other. There's been a ship HUD rework as well with the new building block system. This includes an update to the TVI, the True Vector Indicator, and a reworked center targeting UI. So little updates there. You should notice it pretty immediately when you're in a ship. There are targeting updates as well to improve the visibility of locked, tracked, and pinned targets. This includes unselected targets no longer displaying markers around them. That means you're going to have to look around for targets a bit more using your radar and your eyes in general on the HUD. Automatic selection of best target based on your view cone. Selection method is now a combination of the closest to center of cone, distance, and hostility. So there's a bit going on there that you'll have to digest when you're targeting, and it's much more of a look-based target system than just cycling through target system. Once selected, a target can be locked or pinned. Locked targets display additional targeting information, distance, ribbon trail, direction. Unlocked targets that move off screen outside the cone lose the selection, but if you've got the target locked, then you'll retain the selection, so make sure you lock targets that you want to. Pin targets are displayed to all members of the ship's channel as well, so you will be able to share targets and coordinate assaults with your turret gunners and stuff like that. Quickly going over the controls there, while you're focused on a target, while you're like hovering over them, tap 1, that will lock that target. If you press 2, that will target the nearest attacker that has you locked, because the system now tells you when you're being locked by people effectively, and 3 will pin targets. So you can focus target, lock it, and then pin it, then lock another target, pin it, and then cycle between those with 4 and 5. Bam, 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 bam. So that's a quick way of sort of like managing multiple targets. 0 will remove all pinned targets. There are some turrets and fixed weapon improvements as well, with the fixed weapon assist system using weapon convergence to nudge weapon projectiles towards targets, while still rewarding precise aim and area targeting. Now, how this works? Well, it is much, much easier to aim fixed weapons now. It is very, very, very forgiving as long as you're sort of like within a reasonable area. So much less precise in the way of shooting, much more sort of like will hit targets as long as you're just within a certain area of attack sort of thing. It's not as aggressive as auto gimbals or anything like that, to be sure, but it is still pretty effective at hitting targets. Now, once we have the reasons to be a bit more precise and actually have physicalized components to take down, I think that this is going to be a much more useful, because I think that people are going to want to individually target systems, and they're going to want to be more precise than just auto hit a target or a ship. So I want to see where this goes. If you want a good entry sort of like skill floor for people so they can be immediately effective and they don't have to worry about being really ineffective in ships, then this is a good way of going. However, people that are really, really good pilots might complain, potentially, although there's still certainly the element of being able to dodge and do some quite evasive, interesting maneuvers. It's just combat has changed significantly because of the fixed weapon improvements and turret sort of stabilization here. They now also update pips purely on velocity, which gives them a much more stable firing solution and decreases the effects of network jitter and sort of juking, janky behavior. The turret UI now shows specific labels for statuses, so you can accurately see what's going on, and turrets are much more effective with those sort of like fixed weapon improvements, because that's effectively what they are, and when it comes to manned turrets anyway. ESP has seen tweaks, and the radius and dampening effect is now customizable in the options menu. We will talk about auto gimbals versus fixed weapons in a different video, especially after the sort of PTU phase, because I think there will be a lot of refinements there throughout PTU before 3.10.0 goes live. High-speed combat, that sort of changes what the ship can do when it's flying above its SCM speed, so your gimbal movement and missile lock speeds are slowed effectively. There are a load of quality of life updates for ships. The Drake Buccaneer, the sort of like fuel tanks and items no longer just randomly fall off, which is nice. The weapon points for its size 3 weapons have been moved, so they don't just immediately detach when the wing's broken. They've changed default missiles to a mixture of standard IR and CS missiles as well. The Drake Caterpillar has weapon changes. It now has 2 size 3 hardpoints with size 2 weapons as default, as well as a remote size 3 turret. It still has its 2 size 4 manned turrets as well. The Anvil Gladiator has increased turret and weapon sizes from size 2 to 3, and its gimbals have become fixed weapons by default, as its default loadout. The Xi'an Scout, the Cartual, that's seen some quite big updates. It's got a more unique flight performance than other ships. It's obviously a load of sort of like thruster arrays rather than big engines is the idea here. I'll have to play with it a lot to work out what's going on with it. But its weapon hardpoints have been increased to size 4 with size 3 weapons as default. This is pretty strong for the ship, being able to just, well, shred through things if used correctly, especially if you give it size 4 weapons, but that's down to the pilot, and I suspect there's lots of other pretty powerful things that you can do with lots of other ships now with the new meta anyway. Various ships have had a glass, dirt and wear pass to help with pilot visibility and for the ships to look better. Variable armor values have returned to ships, seeing ships designed to take punishment having a slightly higher damage resistance, so like the Cutlass Blue has more armor. Stealthier ships have signature reduction in armor at the cost of some damage resistances, so they are effectively weaker once their shields go down. They have considerably increased thruster health overall to make them more robust to damage effects as well. There has been a visual rework of the Sledge series of mass driver weapons. Players can buy these at various shops in the Persistent Universe. The P-72 Archimedes Emerald skin is now flyable. The Origin M50 had a few updates. Its landing gear is compressible. It's been updated with a new damage system. There are cockpit improvements and an updated UI. Ship paints and skins are now purchasable in-game with Alpha UBC from places like Dumpers Depot and the Omega Pro shops, and applied via the loadout manager in your Mobiglass. Customize away. There are new ships to purchase with Alpha UEC at Astro Armada New Deal and Teachers Ship Shop as well. I hope that they try and add everything as quickly as possible that's flyable. I don't mind a little tiny bit of delay in it going to rental and shop, but as long as they get it in a timely manner, I'm pretty happy. Updates to the impounding mechanics have been made, so if you're blocking a landing pad with your ship or vehicle without permission, a message will appear on your UI and every other player on your ship as well, I think, with a countdown timer until the vehicle is impounded. Obstructing pads, reckless operation of your vehicle, that's going to have different impounding times and fines for it. Light penalties for blocking pads basically versus harsher penalties for pad ramming, and they do want to remove the pad ramming sort of behaviours from players. It's not going to be a good idea to do that. We have visor wiping as well, so snow, rain, moisture that's in your eyes you can wipe off by holding left shift and Z, or use the inner thought menu. All appropriate updates will also propagate over to Arena Commander and Star Marine. Scores for killing in Star Marine have been doubled to 200. They've increased the score limit for elimination up to 5,000 from 3,000, so it's up to 5,000 now, and they've adjusted the score to rec conversion due to these changes as well, so that's increased quite significantly. You should be getting much more fairer rewards now for doing those little game modules, Arena Commander and Star Marine. Some major bug fixes: patrol missions and execute warrant missions should now work correctly. NPCs should be standing less on seats and sitting on them more. Aiming down sights should now line up when firing. Weapon lockers function on various ships with weapons persisting in them as well. Various areas have been fixed, giving them gravity where they should have gravity. I know that there have been a load of 30k errors and infinite loading screen problems that they've been looking at as well, and we'll have to see if they sort of stick and we get a stable build for the live build for 3.10, and there's obviously a lot of bug fixes that may turn up, and there's been a huge array of minor and other fixes in that patch as well. Now, there are still various known issues that Cloud Imperium want to try and address before a 3.10 live build. These are attempting to perform an orbital quantum travel to Levski from orbit will instead direct the player elsewhere at orbital quantum travel speed, which is not great. Players are not able to join friends' persistent universe instances from the main menu. All 3D icons in personal inventory don't appear correctly when in the personal inner thought menu. Landing gear will take multiple presses of the keybind to activate or deactivate and retract. When leaving an exit spline in some large ships, the ships will not re-enter the spline correctly and fall towards the planet without returning control to the player. Security scans won't recognize the drugs on board a player's ship during the drug production run missions. The ship hologram 3D models will take over 20 seconds to load the first time the player views them on the Vehicle Manager app or on the Arena Commander menu. The Area 18 nav marker will appear at Central Plaza, not the spaceport. Legally landed ships may be impounded when obviously they're not supposed to be. The multi-tool in Klesha Prison Commissary does not come with the orbit mining attachment, which makes doing legal work in prison a lot harder. If the player exits to menus or disconnects or crashes during the prison loading screen, then they may not have their loadout changed properly. Players can get stuck on the loading screen when leaving prison or respawning. Also, when going into aim down sights and crouching or prone, you will be unable to see through the optic scope on the Arrowhead or the P6LR. Free look does not always work properly in turrets. Turrets ignore power settings. Players will fall out of turrets and clip through geometry when exiting them with the female model. Avoid choosing the female model for now is the workaround for that, or just be aware that you fall out of the turrets. Turret projectiles and fixed weapon fire is slightly desynced, so hits may appear to not register, but they actually do register. Exiting a remote turret from the pilot seat will activate free look for the pilot. Press Z to deactivate free look to continue normally. Players will be unable to control the movement of the Super Hornet using mouse controls after exiting the remote turrets using interaction mode. And that's it for the 3.10 initial First Wave PTU patch notes summary and a little feature look. I heard there was a concerted effort to get 3.10 live ASAP. There could be some more bits added for a live build as well, if they're ready, and obviously a lot of the patch could see a little bit of iteration and bugs fixing and that sort of stuff. Overall, I've had some pretty good performance with the patch. I'll be creating a load of 3.10 content over the next few days. If you have anything specific you'd like to see a video on, or a question you'd like to ask, or something you'd like to see, whatever, please drop it a message down below in the comments and I'll take a look, and that will help guide my content for the next few days. Do you have access to the first wave of PTU? Have you been playing 3.10? What do you think? Are you looking forward to it going to a wider PTU and live? Please tell me your thoughts in the comments down below. Every month there's a ship giveaway. For the month of July, we have a Banu Merchantman and Star Citizen game package to give away. All you need to do to be in for a chance of winning that is comment on any of my videos made during July 2020. Details to that down below in the links. I'm also a shill for NordVPN. If you're looking for a VPN, then Nord should be considered. It's cheap and fast and helps keep you secure, anonymous, and give you greater access to websites and informations. Use the links below if you're thinking about getting a VPN. Also, a special thank you to Azatec for supporting my content. Find out more down below because they sent me a Alienware Aurora A10, but there's more to it than that, and you can see all the details of my spec down below and all that sort of jazz. If you'd like to further support my channel or content, then please consider becoming a YouTube member, a Patreon, or even donating. But sharing, commenting, subscribing, and liking, all of that really does help too. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the verse.